Today is a very important day for me. Just for me. I got 10 years of sobriety today. And for me, the importance is not the amount of time, but it is the shit that I have been through to get me to how incredibly happy and content I am right now. And it's not a pink cloud. It's been long-lasting contentment and more recently, long-lasting happiness. I guess I'm doing this video more for myself than anything, but who knows if it'll help some others. Who knows? Then maybe it'll make all my shit worthwhile. So yeah, I was born to a mother and father who were high school sweethearts. They got married young. They both came from like poor, fairly broken families. My mother's side has a history of mental illness. My father's side has a history of alcoholism. They both worked really hard to start building or creating a life for my brother and I, and they took really good care of us. My brother and I did not ever need or want anything. I had a fairly decent education. Had a Christian upbringing, whatever that means. Around age 12, I started having I started having unexplainable pain. Battery's dying. I had unexplainable pain throughout my body. Started having stomach issues. I started falling asleep in class, whereas before I was on the honor roll, straight A's, doing really well. Just stopped caring really, and my parents were taking me to a bunch of doctors trying to figure out what was wrong. I got put on Ritalin for a while for my attention, ADD. That was popular back then. I had a colonoscopy to see if I had IBS, CAT scan, x-rays, MRIs. Doctors kept going back to saying it was growing pains. And I started acting out too because my brother has special needs and my parents were kind of in over their heads with him. My mom, God bless her heart, she's a freaking saint, dude. So they were putting a lot of their attention on my brother, understandably so, and I started acting out because I used to be the smart, good girl that would get praise, and I wasn't getting that anymore, and instead I was in pain and not getting attention. So I started drinking, started smoking cigarettes, started smoking pot. The first memory I have of getting drunk was 14 years old. I was at a party with a girlfriend of mine, and there was a bunch of guys there that were gangsters, in Delavan, Wisconsin, gangsters. I wanted to be popular, so I thought if I lost my virginity that night, I'd be popular. So I hooked up with a guy that night that I didn't know. Whatever. Yeah, and then that started a summer of self-degrading behavior that followed me into freshman year of high school. Got me bullied quite a bit. And I kind of became a recluse. And I ended up hooking up with this guy when I was 15. He was 19. Who ended up being a blessing, but I went into the dark side a little bit, if you want to call it that. I kind of became goth. I did become goth. I would play with Ouija boards and study witchcraft and Satanism, and I just wanted to learn more because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And the pain kept going on, kept going to doctor's visits. Finally, at age 16, we were like, okay, growing pain shouldn't be happening anymore. I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. No big deal now, but it was many, 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 many years, multiple decades of hell to get to a point in my life where now I'm managing it okay. As soon as I turned 18, I moved out of Wisconsin, packed up all my stuff with my boyfriend and another guy, moved to Southern California so I could go to school to be a fashion designer. Did that for 2 years. I went to school for 2 years, got an AA, worked in the fashion design industry as a design assistant, got into the modeling world. I was partying a lot when I was in college. I don't know. I don't want to get into too many stories, but crazy how life goes. My mid-20s was probably my worst of my drinking. I was out clubbing 5, 6, 7 nights a week in LA or Orange County, doing ecstasy, acid, GHB when I chose to, a couple times unwillingly. Acid, mushrooms. I loved mushrooms. Oh my God. Always drinking, of course. You know, I would drive from Orange County to LA, which is an hour long, after drinking, to go to the club, dance all night, and then drive home wasted in a blackout usually, and wake up the next morning not remembering how I got home, and then coming to realize later I drove. Sometimes I would have a memory of being really, really blurry in between the lines, and I used to brag to people that I was a really good drunk driver, and I should be in prison. I should have killed someone. I should have killed myself several times. Don't ask me how. I didn't. It was a lot of fun until it wasn't. My late 20s, it started not being so fun. I started getting angry when I was going out to clubs, and I got into a heavy metal band, which I fucking loved. Oh my God, I loved it so much. That was just the best time of my life. It was also my rock bottom. At 29, I hit my rock bottom when a relationship that was very tumultuous finally came to an end, and I felt so alone. My family was on the other side of the country. I had burned all my bridges. All my friendships were gone. I didn't know how to be. I had no relationships with women. The only relationships I had with men are the ones that I could get something out of. Yeah, and a friend of mine who had been sober for a while suggested I go to a meeting. He said, listen for the similarities and not the differences. And I'm glad he did, because I saw one person with a tear running down his cheek in that meeting, and that was enough to get me to come back, because I felt like I was in a safe space where I could like maybe do some healing, I guess. So I ended up finding my home group, which was in Costa Mesa. It was called the Lease Outlet. A new lease on life. It was at the Lease Outlet, a new lease on life. I got thrown into a women's group and introduced to the woman who became my first sponsor, Kim, who was also my third sponsor, who saved my life, along with several other people. She was awesome. Like, the only reason I fired her and asked someone else to sponsor me was because I was a homophobic bigot back then. Come to find out, after I relapsed, Kim knew what she was talking about. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead. 30 days in, I met my soon-to-be husband. That was in 2009. I felt like finally I had some hope, because I had tried so many other things in the past. Church a lot. I was in and out of church. Atheist, Christian, studied tons of different religions. Lots of therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 13. A suicide attempt at 13. 3 suicide attempts at 13. Been on antidepressant medication up until I was about 29, and it became bipolar medication. But yeah, I'm regressing again, or whatever. Digressing. I stayed sober about 2.5 years, working the steps for a while, and then I distanced myself from meetings, like you always hear. I distanced myself from the community. I just just didn't really want to be a part of it anymore. And I started thinking, this hasn't happened yet. Lose a job, lose a house, blah, 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 whatever. And my then fiance said, why don't you try some controlled drinking? So I said, cool, I will. And I had 1 glass of wine, which turned into the whole bottle, and then I think 2 bottles that night, actually. And then 3 months later, I had been hiding hard liquor all around the house from my fiance, even though he knew I was drinking. But I somehow felt like I was less of a piece of shit if it wasn't obvious. I was, waking up in the mornings drinking before I went in to train my clients at the gym. Sorry, Dale. He probably knew. And March 16th, 2012, I had a belly full of booze and a head full of AA, and I could not stop drinking. I literally could not stop drinking, and I knew that the end was coming. I had been thinking for weeks that I needed to stop, but I couldn't. I grabbed my journal, I started writing on it on the floor, or writing in it on the floor of my bedroom, and I'd cry a lot, and every once in a while I'd like get the courage to stand up and grab the bottle to dump it down the drain, and like as soon as I was pulling it out of the container and I could see it, I would just clutch it to my chest, lean against the wall, cry a little bit more, and then take a chug, put it back in the hiding spot, go back to the floor, write in my journal a bit more. Same cycle repeated 4 or 5 times maybe, until finally I was like, fuck this, I gotta start calling some people. So I started calling people like they tell you to do. And the third person who answered was my friend Kirsten. I talked to her for a little while, and after knowing she was coming to my rescue, I finally got the courage to dump the bottle, and she got me out of my house, took me to the beach. I cried in her arms for a while, and the next day I got back to a meeting and asked my old sponsor, Kim, to sponsor me again. Lucky for me, she said yes. It was easy. It was really easy then, because I knew what's in store for me if I drink. It's suicide. It's a mental institute. I got involved in the meetings in the community again, still in Southern California, and then my grandmother passed away in 2014, and that made the reality of my limited time with my parents hit me in the face. So I started thinking about moving back home here in Wisconsin, and finally made it happen in 2015. Opened up a yoga studio with my then husband. We got married in 2012. Busted my ass to open up this place, and well, we all did, with my family. My battery's about to die again. With the help of my family, my mother by my side, my business partner, my rock, my everything, my saint, my warm place. I knew I needed to be back here too, because my brother's special needs. You know, the day's gonna come when I have to take care of him. Worked really, really hard to build up this business and make it something really great, and I put way too much of my ego into it. I started hosting teacher trainings very soon, and I did 3 of them, and they were awesome. I thought they did really well. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I was doing a ton of workshops. I was teaching a ton of classes. I had teachers teaching for me. I had 13 staff members at one point. Then my mom got diagnosed with cancer. 5 days later, died in my arms. Actually, no, I was watching her. She wasn't in my arms. She was in my arms about 30 seconds prior. And my husband and I stayed with my dad that night, because they were together for 50 years and they were everything, and everything to each other. We didn't intend to stay long, but we didn't want him to be alone. 9 months later, we realized we weren't going anywhere, so we put our condo on the market, sold it. And, I don't know. I got really angry. I wasn't connected to the AA community here in Delavan much at all, because I didn't like it, and that was on me. I got really, really angry. And then COVID hit. I had to shut down my business, which was my everything. My whole identity was my business. My relationship was not good. It hadn't been good for a very, very long time. And I'm not going to get into detail because I'm going to respect others involved. But shutting down my business and losing the one thing that I felt like made me feel good about myself and my life and the things that I had done with my life really took a toll on me. At the same time, I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I had been trying for a little while to get pregnant, and then for the last several months before then, I decided I didn't want a baby, and then I got pregnant. Miscarriage happened, i.e. I chose, never mind, you can get where I was going to say that. And the marriage ended shortly after, and I put myself in a mental institute because I was going to kill myself somewhere around that time frame. It was summer of 2020. I had been sober for 7 years, almost 7 years. No, I don't know, whatever. You do the math, I don't feel like it. So yeah, I went into mental institute at 6 or 7 years of sobriety. From 2017, June of 2017, when my mom died, until about January of 2021, which is a little over a year ago, I was in hell. I was in absolute hell in sobriety. And I was thinking this morning, if I hadn't had those 5 easy breezy straight, they weren't easy, but 5 years of like, I got this, I'd be dead, because I came very close to killing myself several times in those 3 years or so, 3+ years, very close. And I always told myself I would much rather kill myself than drink again, because for me to drink is to live in misery, and I'd much rather, I don't know, who knows what is beyond this life if I do kill myself. But at the time, I'm always thinking I'd much rather die than live in utter misery. But I have tried to kill myself before, and I've escaped death many times, so maybe I can't die. So then there's always the fear of, if I don't do it right, I'm going to be a vegetable, or I'm going to be a quadriplegic or something, and that wouldn't be so fun. So anyway, this past year has been just so filled with self-reflection. I've made a lot of really solid female friendships. Some are in AA and some are not. And I have some really solid ones from my past still. Most of them from my past don't exist, which is fine, because I don't really want to hang out with people who fucking roofie me in Newport Beach. These last few months have been very stressful. I have tried way too hard to help way too many people because it feels so damn good. But I've neglected taking care of myself. And I just got back from a trip back to Southern California yesterday, to be exact, which is fitting. I spent the last week of my first 10 years of sobriety in Southern California, just visiting old stomping grounds and stuff. And I left a lot back there yesterday. I left a lot at the ocean, in the ocean. I left a lot. I am happier than I've ever been, ever. And this is just, there's no explanation for it other than a higher power, which is not anything like the one I was punished for questioning growing up. It's not a man-written one. It's not a man-made one. It doesn't come from one set of indoctrinated rules written by man. It's something so much better than that. And I am so in love. And I feel so fulfilled and so useful and hopeful. Hell yeah, dude. I'm so fucking grateful I didn't drink. Especially those years between when Mom died and the divorce. Because those were fucking brutal. I don't deserve this joy that I feel that these tears are coming from. I don't deserve this. But for some reason, the energy and charge. Thinks I do. All right, I'm done crying.